Part 2 of session 47 is going to be a good one here. Let's talk about the energy bodies and death. Let's begin. In the last video where we talk about session 47's first part, we covered enough information to call it a video, I think. And you can see how it's going to turn now into a different topic, or at least a different line of information. And so I think there's not much to recap from last session, and we can jump directly into this question, which is going to be very long. Before I read it, I just want to make an introduction to what we're going to talk about. I think this question is very deep in terms of how much we can get out of it. At the same time, I'm going to put in the disclaimer, or not properly a disclaimer, but to say that this information is not really important. Even though it's fascinating, and you're going to see why it can also be confusing. We're going to see why that too. But it's just a way of saying, let's get into this with entertaining purposes, not for anything that we may need, in practice, even though it can be helpful, like Ra says. So just what I'm trying to say is, tune in your mind for entertainment, spiritual entertainment, metaphysical entertainment, and sure, there's always some learning that comes out of entertainment, right? So that's the kind of mentality that I want to bring into this. So with that in mind, again, we're going to talk about the energy bodies. I'm going to call them the energy bodies because we're trying to define them, and just as a title, I'm going to call them energy bodies. And because it's so confusing with all the bodies that we have in other schools of thought and metaphysics schools and occultism and so on, it can be confusing to try to put them together. And just like Ra tried to do in the session, I'm going to do my best to refine it also, so you can just see the coherence that this explanation has within the model that we are describing in the Law of One. This is not the model, it is a model. And if we want congruency with our understanding of reality, then we want to use the one model that we are creating. Confusion arises when we try to use different models, into one thing, and it's nice to compare to others and to see, oh, okay, this is what they mean, and meaning is not the same as definition, so we cannot get, confused with definitions. Seneca, over 1,000 years ago, said that we, at that time, we were becoming more philologists as opposed to philosophists. So I think there's a big meaning there when we get into the nuances of definitions as opposed to the meaning of what it is. So I think this is a pretty good introduction to bring you to the question. And my point with what Seneca said was that we shouldn't get bogged down with definitions, mostly just with the meaning. They're two different things. Definition and meaning are not the same. Definition is what we consider to be the academic part of description. Meaning is more directed to the significance of something, the understanding of what it is, internally, not so much in words. So, in any case, with that, let's go into the first question that I have here, which is, it's going to take a while. It's a very long answer. The question was Don saying in 47.8, in our esoteric literature, numerous bodies are listed. I have here a list of the physical body, the etheric, the emotional, the astral, and the mental. Can you tell me if this listing is the proper number? And can you tell me the uses and purposes and effects, etc., of each of these or any other bodies that may be in our mind-body-spirit complex? And as usual, Ra is going to give a good introduction here, caveat, and so on. Ra says, to answer your query fully would be the work of many sessions, such as this one. For the interrelationships of the various bodies and each body's effects in various situations is an enormous study. However, we shall begin by referring your minds back to the spectrum of true colors and the usage of this understanding in grasping the various densities of your octave. So, as usual, I'm going to try to read that paragraph, bring you back here, read the paragraph, bring you back here, so we can start laying out the blueprint of what we're going to talk about. First of all, Don is asking the different bodies that we have, and he mentioned astral, etheric, mental, physical, so on. I think he mentioned 5. Those are names that we have from different schools. Again, let's just say that there's one truth, one way of how things work, and humans cannot define it because we use language. Language is subject to interpretation because of the meaning that we give to the words or the definitions, and the meaning also. We take meaning out of the definitions, which is starting to get a little muddy, as you can see. So we cannot describe it. And so what Ra is trying to do here is within the model of how they describe things in terms of densities, vibrations, and so on, they're going to describe it. This doesn't mean that the explanation that Ra has is the ultimate one, just like any other isn't. And so for the sake of congruency, we're going to go, and that's what they meant with, true colors. They give the disclaimer or caveat or, the warning that, first of all, to answer this will take many sessions, and it's very complex. It's just a very complex study of the bodies. And what are the bodies? Bodies are anything, and how the relationship that exists within a photon, which is a body, and us, the human body, it's so much. So again, they say, let's refer your minds. I almost feel like they said your limited minds, because that's not offensive, of course. It's just saying, like, you are the creator, so you can't offend the creator. It's our limitation of mind. It's just our instrument is limited by design. So let's go to the true colors, because I actually love this, because we come from knowing densities, we come from knowing chakras, and we come from knowing 7 as the master number for the layout of experience, right? And so the bodies must respond to that as well. The bodies need to be correlated to the levels of experience that we have. And so, if I'm having a emotional moment, then I am relating to what they call the emotional body, which is really, my lower chakras. It could be orange ray. So you see, there is an interplay also within the bodies, and we're gonna get to that. The point is that we're setting up the foundation for talking about bodies in terms of 7. That's what I wanted to say. And the usage of this understanding in grasping the various densities of your octave. This is pretty important too, because it's not only the true colors that we're used to, the rainbow colors, but the usage of this understanding in grasping the various densities of your octave. And what do they mean by that? Just like the purpose of the densities, the topic of the density, the purpose. It's just the purpose, of each density. We know them already, and we're going to cover them again as they relate to the bodies. So, next paragraph, Ra says, we have the number 7 repeated from the macrocosm to the microcosm in structure and experience. Therefore, it would only be expected that there would be 7 basic bodies, which we would perhaps be most lucid by stating as red ray body, etc., all the other 6. However, we are aware that you wish to correspond these bodies mentioned with the color rays. This will be confusing, for various teachers have offered their learning understanding in various terms. Thus, one may name a subtle body one thing and another find a different name. So again, they keep going with the warning of, not warning, probably not the right word, but they're letting us know that first of all, when they say, okay, we have 7 repeated macrocosm, microcosm, structure, and experience, that's what I meant before. Therefore, it would only be expected that we use the 7 bodies. Okay, so yeah, we're going to use the 7 bodies as I explained already. However, we are aware that you wish to correspond these bodies mentioned with the color rays, which is Don's question. You know, what are those bodies that I mentioned? Etheric, mental, physical, so on. And Ra says this will be confusing because of what I said in the introduction of the video, that there's a lot of terminology out there to express the same thing and to just simply talk. I mean, it's not an issue that people have made it confusing. It's just that everybody speaks about it in a different way, and that's expected, So, but it will be confusing to use them because of also the way, and I am aware that some occultist teachings apparently use I don't know, let's say astral body for talking about the lower energy centers, which maybe, but then there's a lot to talk about, and I'm not even sure of all of them. So I just want to stick with what we know, and if there is any correlation with any other teachings, then great, and if not, then as always, we reject it. We take what resonates and reject what doesn't. So yeah, that's the next paragraph. All right, now we're gonna get into the bodies themselves. With that long disclaimer, Ra says the red ray body is your chemical body. However, it is not the body which you have as clothing in the physical. It is the unconstructed material of the body, the elemental body without form. This basic unformed material body is important to understand, for there are healings which may be carried out by the simple understanding of the elements present in the physical body. Vehicle, I correct myself. Okay, so now we're into the red ray, and there is a nice word here that we're gonna reuse or remember when we get to indigo ray body. I'll get to that. First, the red ray body is your chemical body. So it has to do with our chemistry, our chemical body. However, it is not the body which you have as clothing in the physical. Even though we may recognize that we are made of chemicals, the red ray body is an energy body. To make more sense of the way I see this, I want you to imagine this or visualize it as energy. Consciousness, rather. Consciousness. Everything is conscious, okay? One big thing before we get into even the other bodies, I think this is a good point to establish this. There is only one entity in the whole universe. Everything else is a fractalized version of itself to experience itself, okay? So why am I mentioning this? Because if we keep this in mind, then we can navigate the various vehicles, or I don't even want to call them vessels, but the vehicle might be the best word. The vehicles that exist for these experiences to happen. Okay, I'm going to make something probably in a little bit when we start talking more about the other bodies, especially when we get to yellow one. And I want you to remember this view that there is only one entity, and then everything else is just this one entity has 7 rays. Let's put it that way, in manifestation. Okay, the one being manifested in the creation has 7 rays. Don't confuse, God with 7 rays or anything like that. Let's just talk about the manifested being, the one being that is here in the universe, which is the same as God, of course, but it's the manifested side of God, source, infinity, etc. And so everything else is just going to be a fractal of that, okay? Now, with that in mind, we get into the red ray body, and this one being has consciousness, okay? The red ray body is that consciousness that is present in the energy that is forming. It's not formed yet, and that's the word that we're gonna remember later on. The elemental body without form. I'm gonna make it a little bit more tangible in a little bit, but I want you to just keep imagining that the red body is not really chemical as we know it, chemical as we understand it from our consciousness point of view, our conscious point of view. It is the forming of matter. Just like in first density, there is timeless states in which energy is realizing that is matter in the same way. That is the same thing. There is a correlation within our bodies because everything is one. And again, I'm bringing this into, when we get to yellow, I'll reference this again. Hopefully I'll remember. But there is a correlation between the densities and our experience here as humans. Let's call us humans, third density vehicle experience. And so the red ray, being the first density, obviously correlates with the first body in the sense that it is materializing, it is forming. That's why they say it's the elemental body without form, the unconstructed material of the body. Now, the basic unformed material body is important to understand. Okay, then they go to say that this is important for people who like healing or that are into healing. For the healer, this is useful. Okay. The tangible way we can see this, and I'm going to go into speculation here, but a very good one, I believe. The elemental body. This is the elemental body, they say, right? The elemental body without form. What are the elements? We know it as earth, water, air, fire, and let me include ether here because that's another element. In just let's just say conventional science, we know the elements as those 4. But we also know ether in metaphysics, and since this video is about metaphysics, why not throw in the ether? Why am I saying this? Because we know, now let's relate it to the Platonic solids. The Platonic solids were also related to the 4 elements, actually the 5 elements, because there were 5 Platonic solids, okay? And so those 5 Platonic solids, which I've talked about in previous videos, are seen as vibration, as patterns of movement, of energy. These are at the core of every particular material that we know. Material is made of atoms or energy in general, but atoms behave in patterns described by the Platonic solids. And life seems to have an affinity for this because the Platonic solids are so regarded because they are perfect geometry in many ways that even I can't explain, but they are perfect in geometry. That perfection is a signature of intelligent energy, which is really what's bringing the bodies into form. Intelligent energy is what's bringing everything into form, as we'll see. There is an important element here when we say intelligent energy, and it relates to the indigo body. So keep that in mind too. If you need to pause and take notes, do it. Or just make a note in whatever minute we are in, go back here and re-watch it again. But this is how it goes, okay? So that's a way for us to see the elemental body in formation. You see, the patterns of vibration that exist in energy, in intelligent energy, as it gives, and this is also, if you're familiar with the Higgs field, you would see that there is a relationship here. I believe that the Higgs field is one of the many characteristics of intelligent energy. It gives mass to the particle. Okay, so it's just creating the mass in the particle. The same way here, this is that invisible field, that energy, that red ray body is that field of energy that is giving structure, form to the energy, so it starts behaving as matter. Okay, so that is our red ray vehicle. I think that's pretty clear so far. I hope so. If not, go back again. If not, leave me a comment. I love talking about this. Please, just as long as you get it, or at least understand. If you can't understand me, then I'm sorry. But that's just how it is. It's the unformed material. Let's just call it substance that hasn't taken form. That is the red ray body. And you can see why it's already, helpful for the healer, because these are the patterns. In fact, before I go on, let me make a statement here in terms of healing and the elements. We talked about the Platonic solids being perfect geometry. We know geometry is generated by vibration. This vibration is generated by our thoughts. And I've talked about this in previous videos again, how water can be impressed by thoughts, by intention, impressed geometrically, because you can freeze the water and you can see the patterns that are created when you give love, appreciation, gratitude, and so on, or hate, offensive stuff, and just negative energy. It's the crystallized patterns are so different. One is inherently beautiful, and the other one just seems like a mess. So, that knowing this is important for healing, because you want to have benevolent or positive or constructive thoughts, and that's what it is. A deconstructed body it's in need of healing, of self-healing. It's ill. So this ease, right? DIS dash ease. It's not at ease. So that is the unconstructed body, red ray body. And now we're going to get into the orange body. Ra says, next paragraph, the orange ray body is the physical body complex. This body complex is still not the body you inhabit, but rather the body formed without self-awareness. The body in the womb before the spirit-mind complex enters. This body may live without the inhabitation of the mind and spirit complexes. However, it seldom does so. The yellow ray body is your physical vehicle. Okay, let me make a pause here before we go into yellow, because I put both in the same paragraph. Orange ray. Okay, so the orange ray is the physical body complex because it has already acquired matter. It has acquired a sort of form. So now it's physical. But it is not the body that we inhabit. This can get a little bit confusing, and I think I have a way, not the way, but I have a way of explaining this. This body complex is still not the body you inhabit. How is that possible? If it's the form body, it's already the material body manifested and created in space-time. I'll explain why. But rather the body formed without self-awareness, and I think that's the key. It's a body formed without self-awareness. The body in the womb before the spirit-mind complex enters. So there is now, let's bring consciousness. Remember how I said that you can see this whole body's creation by remember that there is only one being? Okay, that one being has a second density of consciousness. Basically, the information that is streaming through this layer of density is different than red. It's orange in nature. That orange is playing the music, as it were, for energy to behave in a different pattern. It is not anymore looking for structure or form. It is now looking for a specific, let's just call it evolved nature of it, okay? And in this case, we're talking about the human body. So the music that orange ray plays for the energy to behave is to create with the material that it has already formed. You see, the music in red ray is to create matter. The music in orange ray is to create entities, to create, I don't want to say structure because that, a different structure. Let's just call it a different structure. Structure as matter, structure as living beings, okay? So that's what the dance is doing. This is a form of vehicle, the vehicle in which the music of the cosmos, of the logos, is being played and listened by matter as it behaves in the way that is meant to be. This is what they say the body in the womb before the mind-spirit or the spirit-mind complex enters. It is forming, the entity is being formed. There is no spirit there. There is no mind. It is just the body form. This is why they say that this may live without inhabitation of the mind and spirit complexes, but it seldom does so. This reminds me, when we talked about Maldek, there's a point where Ra mentions that the people from Maldek, I think it was from Maldek or Mars, I forget, but it's about one of the things the Confederation did for, I forgot, I know they, yeah, I think they were talking about the beingness or the beings that Maldek entities had here. The whole point is that they mention mind-body or body-mind complexes that existed without spirit. So they were like suits. They were waiting there for... so this would be a sort of mixture between first and second density bodies that existed. And Ra said that this was in the case of another nuclear disaster, I guess, that these bodies would be equipped to survive that, to survive, whereas our human body wouldn't. Then we would have those bodies, we would reincarnate those bodies in case. I feel like that was the Confederation break in case of emergency, but we haven't, and we didn't use it. So this also brings, I mean, I can speculate so much here, because when we talk about the history of the solar planet, the solar system, we realize that we messed up in Maldek, we messed up in Mars, and now, Earth is the only one inhabited or habitable. And you can see why the Confederation said, like, all right, these guys love nuclear bombs, so let's just make a let's make a safety zone here, or a safety valve. In any case, I digress. The point is that is the orange ray. It's the structured, let's call it the structured entity body, okay, but without self-awareness. That's the key. Just like second density animals, or second density entities, animals, plants, they have consciousness, but they don't have self-consciousness or self-awareness. Okay, so this body obviously needs some sort of consciousness, and if it doesn't have it, then it won't operate. Remember, the mind that is being used for animals and trees is what we call the Gaian mind, the planetary mind, the second density mind of the planet. That's what's being used as a sort of support for the entities to become self-aware. Once they become self-aware, then they can graduate to third density. Okay, so that is the orange ray body. Let's read the rest from Ra. In the yellow one, they say, the yellow ray body is your physical vehicle, which you know of at this time, and in which you experience catalyst. This body has the mind, body, spirit characteristics, and is equal to the physical illusion, as you have called it. Here is the key word for me to differentiate between the orange ray and the other, I mean, even red ray and yellow ray. Because, again, let's go back to the being, the one being that exists in the universe. This one being we call God. Now, consciousness is going from yellow, its own consciousness. It's flowing now through yellow. And in yellow, it is obviously, I mean, if you're in yellow ray, then you have self-awareness. And that self-awareness is the same awareness of God. It's not a different one. So it's no longer music being played, but the musician is now present in the music that's being played, and it's dancing to its own music, only through a veil. Okay? So the musician is now inhabiting the body. So the consciousness, and this is why they say, to me, that's at least how I see it, this body has the mind, body, spirit characteristics and is equal to the physical illusion, because the physical illusion is made of third density. Everything that we see here is third density. Okay? Yes, it's created from red and orange. That's true. We also have fourth and fifth. Everything is just here. But what we perceive, our senses are tuned into the space-time physical world of third density. And so the yellow ray body is our physical body in which we have experience and catalyst. Why? Because again, it's a point of consciousness. And so just like red ray is the unconstructed that is always present, okay, just like indigo body is always present here too, the higher self is always here, it's you, then the orange is also present because it is the music that maintains, let's call it the DNA of the body. That would be orange ray music, that would be orange ray consciousness that is simply going, it's simply playing. And the red, the yellow ray would be that one in which we have experience, which is the perception of our body from a third ray consciousness, a self-aware consciousness. It's very different than being a sentient being or an aware being in second density. So this is the third density body, the one we are inhabiting because we're having experience and catalyst in it. Here is where I wanted to bring the explanation, because I think it's important now to see, now that I call the musician into the mind-body-spirit complex, there is this one being, okay, that is, it's 7 rays, okay. Let's actually do it this way. Pink Floyd album, everybody should know this, or the Prism of Light, but Pink Floyd album, The Other Side of the Moon, I believe it is. This refraction of colors is what the one being is doing, and this one being now is represented in 7 densities. Okay, so I wanted to see the 7 densities as the prism, the rainbow. But the rainbow itself is kind of contracting into the third density body. It's actually doing it on every single density. Okay, so it's not like they are separated. Everything is connected. But the way I want you to see it to understand the bodies is that these 7 rays are compressed into each one of us. And that's why we call 7 energy centers. And that's why we say that the 7 energy centers are related to the 7 densities, because it's a contraction of it, so we can have a dense body here. But then again, that means it's an equation. You know, what's on this side is the same that is on the other side. And so by default, we can now expand ourselves into the 7 densities. And now you can see that it's one being represented in different densities, okay, and having experience, because that's just how it is. That's just what we designed to do. And while first and second density are the evolution of the physical body for self-awareness, from self-awareness and beyond, we just have different bodies, which are contractions. The same thing is happening. Just like the whole being, the 7 density being, the octave being is contracting into one density. It's contracted into the other densities, but of course, every contraction is a little bit more relaxed in the terms of how aware it is of the creation. Until the contraction, obviously, in 7, it's almost non-existent, and is a union with infinity. It goes beyond the expansion and contraction. Beyond polarity, it becomes one black hole. We're out. So I wanted to see it this way too, because we are, as a self-aware being, having the musician, which I think I'm gonna call musician now God. It's now present here, and it's aware of itself. That's exactly what's happening. Have an experience. You know, it's a different consciousness than second. This is why I made the distinction between second and third. If you can see this, congratulations. You have put up with me tremendously. So I hope it makes sense. We have more to cover, of course. It's gonna be a long video, man. All right, I need to cover this in one video. I don't want to cut it into a third part. So thank you in advance for watching the whole video, even if you watch it in parts. All right, next part. Speaking of parts, Ra says the green ray body is that body which may be seen in seance when what you call ectoplasm is furnished. This is a lighter body packed more densely with life. You may call this the astral body, following some other teachings. Others have called this same body the etheric body. However, this is not correct in the sense that the etheric body is that body of gateway wherein intelligent energy is able to mold the mind-body-spirit complex. And now we're starting to see the workings behind all of this and the reverse part, but I'm not going to spoil it. That last part was a giveaway of what's happening in the creation as we manifest all these bodies. So let's cover green ray. Oh, I'm excited. I love talking about this. So the green ray body is that body which may be seen in seance. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Seance, I don't know. I know that word has to do with workings. What's it called? And it has to do with summoning or something, you know, in the white sense, the white magic sense. Like talking to spirits, spiritual contact, I guess. I don't know. When what you call ectoplasm is furnished, this is a lighter body packed more densely with life. So the green ray body is that body which is related to fourth density now. And it can be seen in... Remember, we have all these bodies. Always. These bodies, like, I think in the last... oh no, it is in this session, so I won't spoil it. Not yet. But we have all bodies, okay? And so when there is this type of working, and I'm not very familiar with this this kind of contact that is made with spirits, which I think is what seance means. This can be manifested and seen. You can see the bodies. This is when people see, you know, ghastly or ghostly figures, you know, because what they're seeing is that ectoplasm being furnished. Whatever that means, I'm not sure, but it may relate to the physical structure or the elements, so to speak, of the fourth density body. So I think that the giveaway part here is that they say it is a lighter body packed more densely with life. Lighter, two meanings. Light as in terms of weight. There is less weight, there is less spiritual weight, identification, contraction of consciousness, and so on. And lighter also in the sense of light, and visible light. Because for density, as we climb up in densities, now especially after third, we are able to work more with light, to become more light. If you can work with life, you're being light. And so this is why it's lighter and packed more densely with life. What is life? It's a good question. And so I think in this context, life just means the capacity of experiencing the creation. We are packed more densely with life as we go onwards on the densities of consciousness, because we become more aware of the creation. And so this is the body that allows us to see that. Now, this is not to say that we have to wait for fourth density body to be manifested or activated, as we'll find out is the term. We don't have to. We have consciousness. We are that one being contracted into third density. And as humans, we can actually experience this. In fact, the most intense experience, I believe, comes from the human experience when we work through fate and will. Because those two things make everything else the experience. Like when the synchronicity manifests and you say, whoa, you know, what are the chances of that? Now, you know you can't tell this to anybody or transmit the emotion and feeling that you had to anybody else, because synchronicities just work that way. But you are well aware of the feeling. In the same way, fourth let's call it fourth ray body, green ray body, you are able to use it when you are in love with the creation. You're in love with your life. You're in love with the world. You're in love with everybody. That is the feeling of fourth density body. You are in love. You're accepting. You're understanding of the whole creation. You don't have to be inhabiting, in fourth density and flying in a body, to feel the body. Remember, the creation is about feeling, not about looking or sensing, anything else, smelling. The best experience is feeling, and you feel through your heart. And this is the way you can experience fourth density or fourth body, green ray body. All right, so they say others have called this the same body the etheric body. This is not correct, they say, because the etheric body, in their terminology, again, anybody can call etheric body whatever they want, but in their vocabulary, etheric body has to do with the gateway where an intelligent energy is able to mold the mind-body-spirit complex. And we're going to leave that for the indigo ray, which we only have a couple of paragraphs before we get there. And it's important to keep in mind that when we talk about the indigo ray body, we're going to talk about intelligent energy, intelligent infinity, and form and substance. Key terms. Okay, so for now, we have 1 through 4. And the fourth body, like I said, you can experience it already, like I gave the example of just how much you love the world. You don't have to know all the universe yet. As a human, you are aware of a finite portion of the creation, and as long as you can accept that, you'll be able to accept more of the creation. So this is like a stepping stone for us to love more. And you can see how this goes into harvestability. A person that is not in love with the world cannot advance beyond the solar system, let's just say it. And this is just one way for me to put it. You see, you have to be in love and accepting the world. The more you are, 51%, let's say, then, you are capable of, like they say, the Confederations say, receive the impact of fourth density love light. If you're not able to receive the impact of love light, meaning that you have to accept more than 51% of your life, let's just put it that way. It's just another way to interpret the 51% service to others. That means accepting your life, okay? 51%. Then yeah, that's it's a good point to get out of this, but I don't want to keep derailing too much. You get the point. Just love, accept, that's fourth density, that's green ray body. Feel it now, enjoy it. Next paragraph, Ra says, the light body or blue ray body may be called the devachanic body. There are many other names for this body, especially in your so-called Indian sutras or writings. For there are those among these peoples which have explored these regions and understand the various types of devachanic bodies. There are many, many types of bodies in each density, much like your own. So here, I don't have much to say, other than as we have seen already, there is steps on each density, steps on each body, and now the light body. I think this is more light body than fourth density. Well. It falls into reason that it must be lighter, but they call it the light body. There's a reason why they call it light body. There is more. Every time they describe fifth density, they talk about light. Everything is light. Everything is light. So it seems like you're working a lot more with light, which is the equivalent of wisdom as well. That's fifth density, and this is I think in consciousness, and this is how I would overlap it, in consciousness, as we have seen in all the other bodies, fourth density body obviously is consciousness of acceptance and love, and that's what manifests and experience, what we experience as the fourth density vehicle. The fifth density vehicle is concerned with wisdom, of understanding or balancing, not quite balancing love, but adding wisdom to love, adding the element of wisdom to love. And we can see that here just by our experience of how to transcend love. Transcend love in the sense that it is not only love, infinite, unconditional, by itself, blind. It's about adding wisdom to it. It's about adding that condiment to the stew. You know, that's what really makes up. I mean, the stew makes up everything, but the condiment of wisdom, it's really what makes the flavor of life. All right, sounds poetic. So the relationship that they have may be called the devachanic body. This is because I see the relationship. When we call the astral planes that we have here on Earth, these astral planes are called the lower astral and the devachanic, which is Deva comes from a word basically meaning angels, higher beings, godly beings, though not God in the sense, but more demigods or something like that, right? So Deva, in this sense, it's related to that density, to that in the astral planes we talk about here. Say, you know, in third density we have astral planes, which are where different entities inhabit. And the devachanic plane is that astral plane where angels basically live and exist and are servants of the logos and the creator. And you know, that's what they call it, devachanic body. There, I think it's fine, even though there is negative beings there. I don't know how they see that, but in any case, I'm not concerned with that part. I think it's a fair, fairly useful term. All right, so they say there are many other names of this body, of course, in their Indian sutras. They have explored this for thousands of years, so they may have different names for it. I'm not aware of them. So there are many types of bodies in each density, much like your own. That's an important phrase, and I think this, even though they didn't mention much of this, I think it's important to realize that this is not a full study, like they said. It would take many sessions, so this is just like a general view. And there are many types of bodies in each density. Just like we said, you know, in our third density, there are astral bodies that exist there, and we don't inhabit them, but we interact with them. And so in a way, we are becoming them. And that's why, you know, when you have these lower emotional attachments, there are bodies that are attached to you, what they call spiritual or spirit vampires, whatever. There's a lot of names in the New Age that I tend to not associate myself with, because I would rather think that it's just on one being. And this is why I try to bring metaphysics into a comprehensible way for myself first, and of course for anybody else like you who's watching this and want a simplified version of all this stuff without getting too distracted and confused. I think it's better to see yourself not as a victim of other entities that exist out there, but as the whole being of the universe that you are. If we can do that, then why get distracted by anything else? Okay, so let's move on to one of my favorites, actually, the indigo ray. If you haven't noticed, Ra says the indigo ray body, which we choose to call the etheric body, is, as we have said, the gateway body. In this body, form is substance, and you may only see this body as that of light, as it may mold itself as it desires. The violet ray body may perhaps be understood as what you might call the Buddha body, or that body which is complete. Each of these bodies has an effect upon your mind-body-spirit complex in your life beingness. The interrelationships, as we have said, are many and complex. Okay, man, we're getting close to the hour and we're still in the first question. That's fascinating. But I'm gonna finish this. So I just can't have a third part with the rest, because the rest is related to this stuff too. So, indigo ray body. Okay, let's go back to consciousness. Consciousness, like we said in the other ones, are related to the densities, as you know, there is timeless, form making. See, the word form making is going to be repeated here, and that's why I said remember that from first density. Then there is second density, structure, consciousness, looking for a sort of vehicle in which to inhabit itself. That consciousness being, of course, the creator. And then third density, the creator or musician, comes into the vehicle. Then fourth density is a more accepting and understanding of the universe. Fifth density is adding the wisdom, the condiment to the stew. And now, when we get to indigo ray, what is consciousness doing here? This is why it's important to bring the gateway body. Gateway body. What does that mean? Well, let's understand first, or refresh, what the indigo ray is doing. The pineal gland, the third eye. The third eye, or indigo ray, let's call it indigo ray, is a contact with intelligent infinity to bring about intelligent energy, to use intelligent energy. And so you can see it as a portal. The third eye, or the indigo ray, is a portal between the seventh density, which again is an analog already for the octave, for infinity. So it's contact with intelligent infinity, and it's also manifestation. So it's that portal that exchanges information from infinity to finity. That is the gateway body, okay? So now that we have established this, and they call it the etheric body, I don't care much for the name, I just care about what it means, like I said at the beginning of the video. And so they say, in this body, form is substance. Form, there is nothing form yet, see? Or the form is substance. Just like in red ray, and you see the relationship here, in red ray, substance is becoming form. See, the substance, the energy is taking form. The Higgs field is providing, that mass for it. The patterns of vibrations are becoming manifest, and energy is taking, a sort of, the music is being manifested for the first time. The music is being played. Out of the noise, music is discerned. And so you'll see the importance here in the indigo ray. They keep saying, okay, and you may only see this body as that of light, as it may mold itself as it desires. You see, obviously, the body needs to be the pure light, or as close as light as possible. Light being light with a lowercase l, not light as the principle. The three principles: free will, love, and light. This light is, right? They say body as the light of light, lower capital L. So this light is the substance, is the substance that is going to manifest and form, because they say it molds itself as it desires. So see, the indigo, that's why it's called the form maker. I don't know if they said it here, but it's the form maker, because this body it's holding the light and saying it's going to be created this way. This is why the higher self is here. The higher self is, it's holding all the light, and it's playing with it depending on how the free will of the entity here desires it. You see? So I think that's the key thing in understanding the indigo ray body. That is the one that uses light to form. So in a way, it's in communication with red ray. And you can see why the whole circuit kind of closes here between 1 and 6. These are the 6 chakras, the 6 energy centers that eventually are manifested or reflected in the violet ray, which is the sum of all of them. So the two between, say, indigo and red ray are interconnected in the way that they create the body. The one body, I'm talking about the whole universe. And of course, as a contraction, ourselves, and as a contraction, whatever entities live in our chakras, and so on, at infinitum. At infinity. All right, so violet ray. Violet ray may perhaps be understood as what you might call the Buddha body, or that body which is complete. The Buddha body is that, think about the Buddha and consciousness again. I love bringing consciousness because that's the best way we can make sense of this. The Buddha body is the consciousness that perceives everything without duality, without any separation or division, it's just pure consciousness, and it's looking at the unmanifested, in essence. You see how I said that the indigo ray looks down on the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and it manifests, right? It creates the substance makes form, or the substance becomes form because of the form maker body, indigo ray. And then violet ray, when it looks up at the violet body, or the Buddhic body, which is stillness. It's pure consciousness. And I'll make this, you can see it this way too. I love bringing analogies to this so you can have the practical sense of how to do this. You see, when you're meditating, there are two things that happen. You can be aware of two things only: of your thoughts and perceptions. That could be images, it could be sensations, it could be anything. Your mind, you can be aware of your mind, or you can be aware of consciousness, which is the same way of saying you are aware that you are aware. So those two things are happening in meditation. You become distracted by your mind because you're looking, indigo ray is looking down at all the thoughts, perception, emotions, and so on. Whereas when you cease having thoughts, the mind becomes still, then you become aware that you are aware because you're looking upwards at violet ray. You're communing with God. That's why they say of God we can only say nothing, or several ways they say of God we can only say neti neti. In Hinduism they say there is no way to describe God, okay? Because if you describe it, then you're looking down and you're not really looking at God. So that's how it plays. It's a game of hide and seek, like Alan Watts was wont of saying. In any case, that's the Buddha body. The Buddha body is the one that takes everything. It's complete. There is no separation. There is no division. And so that's a good way to see it. You can visualize it. Just like I told you that you can feel green ray or blue ray, you can feel the indigo ray as well as this machine, let's call it. I don't like the word machine, but this organism, this part of the organism that just looks up and down, up and down. Now the Buddha body, you can feel it as the way in which you commune with silence and sound. Silence being the pure consciousness of seven density, and sound being anything that is manifested, the vibration of the creation. So those are the bodies. We have all these bodies, and that's why they say each of these bodies has an effect upon your mind-body-spirit complex. Of course, the contraction of the one being in the universe, or the octave, contracts, it has an effect on the mind-body-spirit complex and your life beingness. Just like we have an effect in the rest of the universe because we are that one being contracted here. The interrelationships, as we have said, are many and complex. Thank God they didn't go into them because I don't even know what I would have made out of them. Let's go to perhaps one of the last paragraph. And Ra says, perhaps one suggestion that may be indicated is this: the indigo ray body may be used by the healer once the healer becomes able to place its consciousness in this etheric state. The violet ray or Buddhic body is of equal efficacy to the healer, for within it lies a sense of wholeness, which is extremely close to unity with all that there is. These bodies are part of each entity, and the proper use of them and understanding of them is, though far advanced from the standpoint of third density harvest, nevertheless useful to the adept. So, a couple of things here as this last paragraph unpacks. Ra says that one suggestion is to indicate that the indigo ray body may be used by the healer, like I said. Once the healer becomes able to place its consciousness in this etheric state to know unity. What is the etheric state, or the indigo ray state? Is to know that everything is one and it's balanced with love and wisdom. There is no separation. When the healer is able to place itself there, then it can use intelligent energy. That is the key thing with indigo ray body, and that's why it's so important, because as you're able to place your consciousness up here, and this is why all yogi teachings, the esoteric Western schools and everything basically that talks about energy centers or chakras, they tell you to put your consciousness in your third eye. Become aware of your third eye. Become familiarized with your third eye. Practice it. Exercise it. To me, it just means realize more and more that you're one with everything. And you're going to be exercising that will to see the world that way. This is important because this is how we use intelligent energy. You don't have to be a healer, like a healer for others. You can be a healer for yourself by placing your consciousness there. Because by doing that, you are claiming your right to use intelligent energy. To use intelligent energy for your own healing. You see how we said that at the beginning, well, Ra said, and I emphasize that red ray is important because red ray is the foundation of the body. That's what creates or makes the music for DNA. See? So an awareness of this is helpful for the healer because of that same reason. And so we become aware of the indigo ray workings, which is the form maker and what creates the body. And so as we're here, we can explore this and we can use that for healing. I think that's very important. They also say that the Buddhic body, violet ray body, is equal of equal efficacy to the healer, for within it lies a sense of wholeness. Again, yes, if you can place your consciousness out there, just place your consciousness in consciousness. As weird as that sounds, but that's a beautiful effect that happens in meditation. When you are aware that you are aware, it's the same effect as when you point a camera to the to the monitor in which it's being projected, or the feedback that occurs, when you have a microphone listening to its own sound. But in this way, it's the feedback is not an annoying one or a creepy one or weird one that happens when we have a feedback loop in our reality. It's a feedback loop of awareness. And awareness is pure love. This is why placing your consciousness or awareness into awareness, it's like exponentially creating more love in yourself. It's just a beautiful thing that happens in meditation. I'm sure I'm not the only one that experiences this, and I highly invite you to just disconnect yourself from the mind. Recognize anything that you may visualize, think, or whatever. I experiences done by indigo ray down. Violet ray up is stillness, is silence. There's nothing going on. So if you have any experience, then that experience is not violet ray. It's about placing your consciousness in pure awareness. So that's a very long topic, and I don't wish to go there. We still have I'm up to an hour, but I'm finishing this. All right, so they say these bodies are part of each entity, like I said, and the proper use of them, yes, and understanding of them is, though far advanced. I love this last part where they say that even though it's far advanced because it's not needed for harvest, you don't need to know all this, you don't need to experience all the bodies. All you need to do is open your heart, at least, just try to activate that fourth density. That's what you're doing. You see, that's another way to see harvest. If you want to be harvested, not that you need to, because if you're here, you're probably a wanderer, but just for you to know how this works. And again, I'm putting just my bias point of view that I think wanderers shouldn't be concerned with harvest, because we already went through harvest, so there's no need. In any case, it's not important for harvest, but it's helpful, for the adept. And like I said, I got distracted. With the 4 density harvest, you can see that you want to activate your 4 density body. You want to do that. So what do? You accept the world. Like I said, you just 51% at least of accepting your life. That's enough, and accepting it with love, of course. So, all right, we're past the hour, and there are more questions, but they all relate to this. So I need to make this video long. I'm sorry, I don't know to whom, but I guess I just needed to say it. Question 9, Don says, which bodies do we have immediately after physical death from this yellow ray body that I now inhabit? And this is a nice question, because Don wants to know, once you die, this is where we go into death. Once you die, what is the body that you inhabit? And Ra says you have all bodies in potentiation. This is important to know. This is a quick one. I think all of these, most of them are going to be quick. All bodies in potentiation. All bodies always exist. You're not missing one, or you're just inhabiting one iteration of the body. Like I said, a contraction of your one body. You are the whole octave, if you forgot. You know, that octave is being contracted into you for experience, for having a sort of entity through evolution. And this is how we may see it. The entity through evolution may see itself in a body, but it's the whole octave, okay? And so all bodies are in potentiation. All bodies are available to the entity in evolution. So they're all available. They're just there, okay? But Don is going to further refine his question and say, then the yellow ray body in potentiation is used to create the chemical arrangement that I have as physical body now. Is this correct? Ra says this is incorrect only in that in your present incarnation, the yellow ray body is not in potentiation, but in activation. It being that body which is manifest. Okay, so the question is a little bit tricky for us to read and understand, because I think what Don wanted to know was if the yellow ray body in potentiation is used. See, I think that's the incorrect part, especially because Ra says only in that, it's incorrect only in that, you know, blah blah blah, which we're going to reread. But Don says, you know, what happens to the yellow ray body, you know, in potentiation is used to create the chemical arrangement that I have as physical body now. You see, I see it now. You don't use the body in potentiation to create or manifest the physical body that you have now. You use it in activation, and that's what they say when in your present incarnation, the yellow ray body is not in potentiation, is in full activation, being the body that is manifest, that we already talked about, that this yellow ray body that is already inhabited by the musician. See? So it's not in potentiation, is in activation. Don is going to question further and say, then after death from this incarnation, we still have the yellow ray body in potentiation. But then is perhaps, say, in the general case of our planetary population after death, would they then normally have the green ray body manifested? It's a good question. It is right that we have it in potentiation, but Ra says not immediately the green ray body, and not in every case, I would add, but they didn't say that. The first body which activates itself upon death is the form maker, or the indigo ray body. This body remains. You have called it the Ka, Egyptian, until Etheria has been penetrated and understanding has been gained by the mind-body-spirit totality. Once this is achieved, if the proper body to be activated is green, then this will occur. So, this is what's happening. Death. We're talking about death. And once there is the death of the physical body, the entity, or you see, there is the illusion of entities. And the illusion of entity, the manifested entity in the creation, the entity in evolution, actually, is the one that is going through the process of realizing who he is, or who she is, or what it is. No gender, right? So, as it evolves, it tries to gain knowledge, awareness, rather, not knowledge, but awareness of its being. So what happens? As soon as you die, normally, the first body which activates itself upon death is the form maker. And that form maker is the indigo ray body. You don't activate anything else. So why is that? Not because you're graduated into sixth density, but because the body that is in need for future iterations of of itself, of this entity, would be the form maker, the indigo ray, the higher self, basically. So it's like you die and you first commune with your higher self to plan, to program, to do life review and all this stuff, which we'll talk about here too. This body remains. You have called it the Ka. The Ka in Egyptian mythology, I'm not fully aware, but I know the Ka meant something which is, it's like the higher self, I think. It's the spiritual self that exists always. It's always while you're here, and it's there when you die. That's what they meant in Egypt back then, is the Ka, is that shadowy form of us that is an energy body. And so the indigo ray body is the form maker. And so it makes sense that once you die, you go to your form maker and say, okay, basically, what did I do? What can I do to progress as a self-aware being, and provide the experience that is needed to keep climbing the densities of consciousness in which I will become more aware of myself. And that's what you're doing once you die. And so they say, until Etheria has been penetrated, Etheria being like the realm, I suppose, of indigo ray, of sixth density, an understanding has been gained by the mind-body-spirit complex totality. They didn't say complex, I just added that. Once this is achieved, if the proper body to be activated is green ray, and that's why I said at the beginning that it's not immediately in not all cases, because if you can activate your green ray because you haven't had that awareness of yourself in experience, then you can have your green ray. But if you do, then you do. And that's why I said wanderers probably shouldn't concern themselves with, am I going to be harvested? True that many wanderers that haven't woken up may still be lost, and they may need to recycle again, third density. But if you're watching this, especially after an hour, chances are you are a very awake wanderer. And as long as you remember who you are and remember what being here really is, I think your green ray body and beyond, everything should be available for activation once you die. And again, don't think about this in terms of fear that I need to have my bodies activated because once I die, I want to. There is no I. There's only one being, and you're serving that one being, which is all of us. So I know I can keep going on this just to alleviate people who are kind of worried about harvest and am I gonna make it? Nobody makes it. We're all just one. All right, so this is what happens after death. Let's keep going with death. Don says, let me make a statement and see if I'm correct. After death, then, if an entity is unaware, he may become what is called an earthbound spirit until he is able to achieve the required awareness of activation of one of the bodies. And it would be possible then to activate any of the bodies. Would this go all the way from red through violet? Ra says, given the proper stimulus, this is correct. This means, in essence, that if you die, then you can, given the proper stimulus, like Ra said, you can activate any of the bodies. But the correct stimulus would be, you to have had those bodies activated at some point in your experience of life. This is why the Buddha, in essence, just activated his Buddha body and disappeared. Just, okay, I'm out. I am dissolving once again into unity. But I'm always present because I've always been here and I didn't go anywhere. So, yeah. Don's question is, after death, if an entity is unaware, he may become what is called an earthbound spirit. Okay, so yeah, this is going to lead into the ghosts that we know as ghosts. Earthbound spirit until he's able to achieve the required awareness for activation of one of the bodies. And of course, one of the bodies could be anything if the entity is able to do that. So it could be a third density new graduate from second density that dies and it needs to activate again its yellow ray body for another cycle as a human. Or it could be a wanderer who came from sixth density and it's going to activate again its sixth density body. So that can happen, but in the meantime, they remain as ghosts, How does that happen? We'll find out. But again, as Ra said, given the proper stimulus, it is correct to activate any of the bodies, and the stimulus may be what I think is our activation of those bodies previously. Don says, what stimulus would create what we call an earthbound spirit or a lingering ghost? Good question. Ra says, the stimulus for this is the faculty of the will. If the will of Yellow Ray mind-body-spirit complex is that which is stronger than the progressive impetus of the physical death towards realization of that which comes, that is, if the will is concentrated enough upon the previous experience, the entity's shell of Yellow Ray, though no longer activated, cannot either be completely deactivated, and until the will is released, the mind-body-spirit complex is caught. Let me read the rest. This often occurs, as we see you are aware, in the case of sudden death, as well as in the case of extreme concern for a thing or an other self. Attachment is the word here. Blockage, attachment, obsession, greed, desire. The Buddha explained to us the suffering it comes from desire, and desire to maintain things that are impermanent, right? That is the source of our suffering, trying to hold on to something. When you die, and I love their explanation for a ghost. I never believed in ghosts while I didn't know about metaphysics, and now that I opened up, this is I'll share an anecdote here. When I grew up, I believed in ghosts because as a kid, you always believe what they tell you, there are ghosts. When I was about 12 or 13, I became aware of science, and I completely disregarded anything that had to do with metaphysics and pseudoscience and so on. I was that guy. And I didn't believe in ghosts, of course. It's just like ghosts don't exist, obviously. When I woke up to the true reality, I said, like, holy crap, ghosts are a thing. I don't know what they are. I'm scared again. I experienced that fear as a child again, but it didn't last long. I wasn't aware of the law of one at that time, but something happened to me in sleeping one night, and I remember I guess it was like an update, you would call it, a download, an update. And I just woke up that day and I said, I'm not afraid anymore of the unknown. I'm just not. Then, reading Ra here makes so much sense to understand what a ghost is. And so, back to the material, Ra says that the stimulus is the faculty of the will. You see, will is the direction in which we point our attention, our focus. And so, the stimulus is where, this is important also for activation of other bodies. You see, will is the key word for doing any work in 4th, 5th, 6th density, or chakras, or energy bodies, whatever, rays of colors. And we should cover everything. The will is what's going to determine where you are, where you want to be. And so if the will of the yellow ray, or the human that dies, is that which is stronger than the progressive impetus of the physical death towards realization of that which comes, which is death. That is, if the will, well, what comes is not death. What comes is the experience of dying. Death is like being born. Is there a point where you were born? Not really. There's no fragment of point where you can say, I was born. The process of being born, the process of dying. The process of dying, let's just put it this way, the process of being born is returning to life, or actually manifesting yourself into this life of third density. The process of dying is the dissolution of identities, the dissolution of attachments, and so on. And so, if your will is stronger than the impetus that is coming from the release of, that is death. Death is release from everything. You will become attached. You will become bound to this earth. That is, if the will is concentrated enough upon the previous experience. See, the previous experience is a great way of saying that life or existence, beingness, is a progressive experience. But if you're so attached to your previous experience, then the entity, the shell of the entity, of the yellow ray, because no longer activated, it's dead. You know, the physical matter is just no longer there. Cannot be either be completely deactivated because there is still presence in the energy, the will of the entity to remain as a human until the will is released. You have to release it. The mind-body-spirit complex is caught. I love that word. It's caught. So, in essence, you know, this means, I can speculate so much here, and since we're over the hour, why not? Check this out. A couple of things. First of all, this is a call for releasing of attachment to anything here, whether that be possessions. I think they said on the next slide, they say this often occurs in the case of sudden death, because in sudden death you may linger for a while knowing, like, what just happened? Where am I? You know, why is nobody talking to me? I think it's funny. The universe is not serious, okay? Who said that? Who said that? Religion and governments are the ones that take everything so serious because they're afraid of you. They're all afraid of you, that you may make fun of them. they're so strict. So, in any case, making fun of this, I make fun of anything. I think creation is funny. Lila means play. We're supposed to play here. Okay, so in the case of sudden death, as well as the extreme concern for a thing or other self, I think this is the key word for attachment, or the key words for attachment. Extreme concern for a thing or other self. If you're so concerned about, oh, my legacy. I cannot die. My legacy will go with me. You know, that's attachment, huge attachment with greed and, you know, wanting to have things. You're not any of those things. And attachment to other self, it could be, you know, it just happens. You know, you're so in love with somebody, but that's just failure. And I'm sorry that I'm not romantic here, but that is just failure to realize that the other self is just a compliment for you. It didn't mean it was you. So again, this is something we need to realize. And again, just for you to see my spirit in this. That's what happened with my father, as I explained in last session, I believe it was, whenever I talked about cancer. My father was just infatuated with my mom, and my mom died, and so, you know, he had to go too. They couldn't be apart, and there they are. They're here in my heart. Oh, what a beautiful experience. But that's it, you know, you can become attached to something. This will happen, basically. So that's what a ghost is. A ghost is somebody, and this is, you know, Julie has a very sensitive perception, and she has perceived or sensed entities that are discarnate, and they are still here, and she's felt, you know, their voice asking, what do we do? And so she has told them, you know, to just follow the light, you know, go realize that, you know, the universe is out there, that the earth is no longer their enclosure. I don't want to call it prison. It's no longer their school right now. So just go enjoy the universe. And so they go. There are a lot of people like that, I'm sure. They take time. It's fine. It's nothing like, oh, we should be concerned about them. We should just fill them with love. All right. We have 1-2 more questions, maybe. Let's go. We can do this. Don says, question 14. Well then, does orange ray activation after death occur very frequently with this planet? This is a very weird question. Orange ray activation after death. I don't know what Don means here, but Ra is going to say, quite infrequently, due to the fact that this particular manifestation is without will. Occasionally, an other self will so demand the form of the one passing through the physical death that some semblance of the being will remain. This is orange ray. This is rare, for normally if one entity desires another enough to call it, the entity will have the corresponding desire to be called. Thus the manifestation would be the shell of yellow ray. Okay, Let me see if I can unpack this, because first of all, I'm going to assume that after death, dawn means human death and not second density death. So they can return like that. Without will, that can happen. So that won't happen in the animal. So this refers to humans. Okay, let's read. First of all, it's infrequent, quite infrequently, due to the fact that this particular manifestation is without will. Okay, the manifestation of orange ray body, etheric body, it's not the word, invisible body, energetic body, I think it's a better word. The manifestation of the energetic orange ray body is without will, period. Okay, there's no will in the orange ray manifestation of the body. Okay. Occasionally, another self will so demand the form of the one passing through the physical death that some semblance of the being will remain. Oh, so this is like, I am so, say Julie dies, I am so obsessed with her that I see her everywhere. That I see her, I'm seeing her orange ray energy body. The form that she once was, but I don't communicate with her, I don't see her, she doesn't bring me messages, it's just me projecting her there. That's what happens. This is orange ray. Makes sense, because orange ray, like we said, is the energetic configuration of the entity that was formed. Makes total sense. This is rare, for normally if one entity desires another enough to call it, the entity will have the corresponding desire to be called. So in this case, Julie would have the corresponding will to, be called and come to me. Thus the manifestation would be, of course, a shell of yellow ray. This is also important why when people die, you should let them go. Let them go. When they die, they die. I'm not saying, I know it sounds terrible the way I just say it, but there is grief. It's okay to have a couple of weeks, days. I don't know if it takes you months, it's fine. It takes you years. Listen, it took me like 4 or 5 years to accept the death of my best friend. So, I know what that feels. But I wasn't aware of all of this. People who are aware, like you, when death comes near you, accept it, love it, because they don't feel attached. I remember telling this to my dad when my mom died. Eventually I said, release her. You need to release her because she needs to go do her life review, her healing, and her programming for her next life. And you're not helping her, and you're not helping yourself. Or perhaps a better way to say it, I don't think I said it this way. Maybe I did. It's better for you and it's better for her. So you're helping both. But yeah, it's just how it worked. So yeah, I think this is what they mean. Let's go on. I don't think I have anything else to unpack here. That makes sense. Any questions, comments, as usual? Don says, question 15, what does the large percentage of the Earth's population as they pass from the physical death activate? I just added the word death there. That's not there. But that's what it means, death. What happens after death, in essence? What do they activate? The majority. That's a good question. That's a Don the scientist, Don the analyst. Statistics. I want the statistics. So Ross says, the normal procedure, given an harmonious passage from yellow ray bodily manifestation, is the mind and spirit complex to rest in the etheric or indigo body until such time as the entity begins its preparation for experience in the incarnated place, which has a manifestation formed by the etheric energy molding it into activation and manifestation. This indigo body being intelligent energy. We go back to intelligent energy and indigo body ray. Okay, they finish saying is able to offer, let me reread that. This indigo body being intelligent energy is able to offer the newly dead, as you would term it, soul, a dead soul, a perspective and a place from which to view the experience most recently manifested. Beautiful. It's a beautiful way to end this. Okay, so what happens after death? Normally, in a harmonious passage or death from yellow ray body manifestation, is that we go to indigo, like I said. Just to cover up, harmonious passage just means none of that sudden death or attachment. The this is a good point to add in talking about death. How fourth density, I believe, the negative entity, how do they do it? I had this question myself, and I said, how does a negative entity, once they die, they can go to their higher self or indigo form maker, and they plan? I mean, what's the healing process? Shouldn't they realize that they're one with everything? And my answer to this, and again, this is just my speculation, because I know somebody's going to ask this. How does a negative entity do this? Well, remember, a negative entity, as we found out in the last video, first part of the session 47, they use negative energy. It's not negative energy, but the negative path to utilize infinite energy to make contact with intelligent energy, the indigo ray body. So it's not like they're communing them with indigo ray. It's that they're demanding, because of they got possession. They got manipulation, rather. I think it's a better word for the negative entity, to use intelligent energy, so they can use the intelligent energy to create their bodies in fourth and fifth density. So I think that's how it works. I may be wrong here, but that's my best speculation of how this works. They use, they're manipulating intelligent energy, villains, to create their bodies in fourth and fifth density. I think that's how it works, because the will of the entity as it dies is that it's owning the planet, it's owning the world, it's owning the universe. So once it creates its body in fourth density, it's greeted by its fourth density negative buddies and say, hey, you made it, but guess what? We've been here for a long while, so now you're gonna serve us. And he's gonna say like, oh yeah, well, I'm smarter than you, so I'm gonna beat the game. And so they go on in the illusion of separation. Oh my god, I can talk about this for a while as usual, but let's finish up with this and then conclusions. The normal procedure, given a harmonious passage. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about how is for the mind and spirit to rest in etheric or indigo body. Once you die, you go to your higher self. It's not like you, an entity, goes to the other entity called the higher self. This is just one being again. That is just your consciousness rising to the higher self to first heal. You need to heal anything that you may bring. Like, I left my children, I have a house, I had a job that I didn't fulfill, I didn't finish my painting, all this stuff. It's healing. It's saying, relax, none of that was you, chill out. Chill. That's healing. That's why Hitler had to go through the process of healing. He's still going through the process of healing, because there's so much he needs to. I don't think he made it as a negative, so that means that he is in the neutral side again. Depends on once it comes out. I mean, it's gonna have a lot of vibrations in himself, karmic. I mean, this becomes so fascinating to see how an entity, once it comes back, and is to heal a lot. And the best way to heal is to be back here, but you bring back all your karma, and karma being just, let's call it undulations or vibrations. I think it's better called vibrations that are resonating within you. I mean, it's just probably for another video. I don't want to go into this. But yeah, you go back to your higher self, to your higher intelligence. You heal, you do life review, so you can see, okay, what did I do? What can I do next time that it best serve my evolution, and so on. That would be life review for next programming. So you program yourself for your next life. And this is what it, in essence, what Ra is saying, solar perspective and place from which to view. I think it's fascinating when they say also this indigo body being intelligent energy. The indigo body is pure intelligent energy. It's light with a lowercase l. Is that light that is not form, that's substance. So it provides the soul a perspective and a place from which to view the experience most recently manifested. Creates a loving environment, if you will, for the entity, so it can review what it did, and of course from there it can start creating. I think they said molding. See, I think it's a little misplaced here the way they said it, but that's Because you see, once you have your life review and programming, then the next step would be, like they said at the middle of this paragraph, preparation. Yeah, the entity begins its preparation for experience and in an incarnated place which has a manifestation formed by the etheric energy molding it into activation and manifestation. This could be third, fourth, fifth, doesn't matter. It's just the form maker is creating the next body depending on the experience that the entity wants to explore, and that's all in communion with the higher self. We did it. An hour and 33 minutes with 33 seconds I see in my OBS studio. So, straight to conclusions. We explored mostly the superficial interrelationships of the energy centers. In essence, what they mean. Forget about densities, forget about chakras, just energy centers. What they represent in each one of us. And so this is a great study for us to understand our mind, because the mind, like I said, is 1 through 6. The mind is manifested 1 through 6. There is no mind in unity. Unity is pure consciousness. And the manifested mind here is what's doing everything. So when you become aware of your mind in the animal way, first, second, third, and in the spirit way, fourth, fifth, sixth, then you become a more holy person. That's what the word holy means. Holy doesn't mean sacred. There's nothing sacred like God's. Who said it? I'm bad. No, Bodhidharma said. Nothing sacred. It's nothing sacred. Only vast emptiness. That's all there is. And so holy means that. It just means whole, being whole. And whole just means unity. If you feel whole, then you're holy. You can use all this information just to realize the unity of yourself within all your energy centers. What do they mean in your life? What do they mean in the densities and so on, if you want to explore it that way? But it's the balance of everything, and knowing the place of everything, knowing the inevitable, or the what's the word, unavoidable need that we have for every single energy center. There's an orchestra. I talked about music being played in each of the densities. Well, this whole thing is a masterpiece of music. You know, it's a symphony that's being played. So this symphony is you. And the more you are aware of the instruments that are being played within you and their job, you know, then the more harmonious you will be with your symphony. I hope this helped with that, because we have explored the energy centers in many ways. I think we can still go on for another hour talking about this session because it's so fascinating. But we are at the end of it. I took the rest of this answer, which was, this is the last question, if there's another question, and then they talk about appurtenances and stuff that need to be realigned. That's it. It's not much to this session that I can discuss. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank each and one of you who have contributed to my channel by donating. It's not necessary, like I said. I think I just opened this to see the value of my content in another way. I think it's valuable enough for me. It will always be for people to watch it and enjoy it. That to me is enough. I love expressing myself, and the fact that people can benefit from my chattering, you know, and I'm not a self-professed, you know, teacher, master, guru, or anything. I'm just a guy talking. But the fact that, you know, some of you have showed some appreciation for my work this way, it means a ton, you know, for me. So I appreciate that. If you want to contribute another way, though, which is the perfect way, is to share this with people that you think may resonate with this. You know who resonates with this. Don't send it to anybody else that you don't think they're going to resonate. You know your heart. And like, subscribe, the whole thing. which is just another way of increasing possibilities of this reaching other people by synchronicity, if YouTube allows. I have nothing else to say, but truly, I love you, I accept you. I really accept you the way you are. I don't know you, but I accept whatever weird person you are. The weirder, the better. I have a friend that always tells me, I'm such a weirdo. And I said, great, please show me more of your weirdness. You know, I enjoy that. I think we grew up seeing too much of robotic, people. Now we enjoy the weird people. So I accept you and love you that way. The same way you accept me and my weirdness and my eccentricity. So we are one. Thank you so much again for watching. I'll see you in session 48.